Namaste. We're looking at the history of yoga, and in this episode, we'll look at Krishna. The history of yoga is as old as mankind's first queries into one's place in the cosmos. When you start to ask the question, who am I? That's when the yoga journey begins. In the last video, we looked at the role of AdiYogi, the first yogi, and how he taught Sapta Rishis, and that animated the entire journey of yoga as part of Tantra and still animates the Indian culture. In today's session, we are going to look at a deep understanding of Krishna. Krishna is the next legendary yogi after AdiYogi who had a huge impact on consciousness, studies into consciousness, philosophy and life itself. The most spiritual of the Indian books, the Bhagavad Gita. In fact, we've got the Vedas, we've got the Upanishads, but in terms of the most popular spiritual book, the Bhagavad Gita is what Krishna spoke to Arjuna at the battlefield. Now, this is the beauty of Indian thought, that a spiritual discourse is being given just before war. In fact, it's been given to Arjuna to motivate him, to inspire him to fight the right fight. Now, it's very important to put this whole thing in perspective, so let's get started. Krishna is considered an avatar of Vishnu, one of the gods of the Trinity, Brahma, Vishnu and Mahesh or Shiva. Now, what is important to understand with Krishna is he brings this idea of Leela, of play. Here is a spiritual master who is equally adept at playing with life. Now, for us, often we find that we are trying to say that a spiritual person should be in spiritual matters, should not be connected with politics, should not be connected with art or life, But with him, it's all together. He introduces the idea of the householder yogi, in the sense that typically the idea was that if you're a yogi, you're a renunciate. You're living maybe with a wife, but you're living in an ashram or in the forest. With Krishna, he is in the midst of the kingdom. He is very much politically active. He's very much active in every sphere of life. And yet, he's something very unique. He's like a lotus in the water, in the mud, but something beyond. So to understand the whole thing, the Pandavas and the Kauravas, the Pandavas are the 5 brothers, the Kauravas are the 100 brothers, they are cousins and they're coming to war. I'm just giving you a little perspective before we get into Krishna's fundamental ideas on Bhakti Yoga, Karma Yoga and Jnana Yoga. This is his big contribution where he clearly elucidates the different kinds of yoga. The Bhagavad Gita, 18 chapters within the Mahabharata. Mahabharata is the world's longest poem, about 100,000 verses, all in perfect meter and rhyme. Can you imagine the person who's written this? This is all divine inspiration. To be in a train of thought where you're writing 100,000 verses in perfect rhyme is something very unique. I hope that today we also are able to have authors and poets and develop that amount of focus that we can create the epics as was in the years gone by, in the millennia gone by. Out of these thousands of verses, 18 chapters is the Bhagavad Gita. The first 6 deal with Bhakti Yoga, the next 6 with Karma Yoga, and the last 6 with Jnana Yoga. Now, they are at the battlefield. Krishna is a charioteer to Arjuna. The charioteer is an allegory for somebody leading you, guiding your spirit. A person who is leading you on that charioteer. So it's a very beautiful way of depiction that this enlightened being is a charioteer to Arjuna, who's a great warrior. He has a moment of moral cowardice. Arjuna, he says, So it's the two cousins, the two sets of cousins going to war. It so happened that the Kaurava's father should have been the king but was blind, and therefore his younger brother became the king. When the time came, the younger brother's children were to take over the kingdom, but the elder brothers, the blind brothers' children, they usurped the kingdom. They got them into a gambling game, took over the kingdom. By and large, the governance that they brought about was terrible. They were very greedy and not really doing the job of good governance. It's time for the Pandavas to take back their kingdom after 14 years in exile, but they are not given it. They were promised to be given it. They're given a few villages instead. So eventually things come to a stage where they've come to war. The point is that Arjuna says, even if I win this war, what is the use? I'm going to be killing my cousins, I'm going to be killing my uncles, I'm going to be killing my gurus. They all studied together as children because they are cousins, but the gurus have allegiance to the royal family, the king. So he has this moment where he says, I'd rather not fight, I'd leave. It is at this point that Krishna starts to talk to him and give him knowledge. So the one thing he says is that, there are many things he says, but the one primary idea is that you are a king. It is your dharma. Yeah? Dharma means your calling in life. It is your dharma to govern a kingdom. It is not being done by the others. So if you walk away, you are not doing anything good. You're running away from your dharma. There is no salvation for such a person. Now, he's making the point of what is karma yoga. So let me just take a step back. A human being typically is either an emotional person. If you're an emotional person, Bhakti yoga, the yoga of devotion, suits you best. It's very good to be able to express your emotions towards a god, a deity, and therefore, through that process, emotions are best expressed. But if you're not an emotional person and you're a person of intellect, intelligence, inquiry, then your journey should be Jnana Yoga. We'll get into these details. But if you're not either of those two, but you're a person who likes to help, like a person who always wants to sort of do things, help people, your brother's needs are above your own, like that, service, that is Karma Yoga. So he defines Karma Yoga very beautifully. The first point, Karmani evadikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana ma karma phala heturbur ma te sango akarmani. Now, this is the way he describes it in the Bhagavad Gita. You cannot run away from your responsibilities. If whatever is your dharma, if you're a mother, you have to be a mother. You cannot run away from that. If I'm a teacher, I have to teach. It is my responsibility to teach. If I don't do that and I try to run away, I'm escaping life. Not acceptable. So the first point of Karma Yoga, you have to do your duties, your responsibilities. The second point, you don't have any say or you relinquish the fruit of your labor. Now, this is very important to understand because we generally do things only for the result. If I get this result, I will then do this. If you're paid this, then you'll do this work. If you get this relationship, then you'll pursue it. Now, what this means is that everything becomes a transaction. With Karma Yoga, the understanding is that you do your best. You do your work as though it's your prayer. But what happens as a result is not, it has never been, but it's not in your control. And this happens a lot in the workplace. People work the whole year, they enjoy their work. At the end of the year, when it's time for an appraisal, they don't get the appraisal they think they deserve, they don't get the raise, and now they're stressed. They say they hate their job, the whole year's been a waste. It was not the case. They just didn't get the appreciation they thought they deserved. Now imagine if you can work such that you're free from the result. You can do the best possible work. You can just do the most amazing stuff because you're not stressed about whether you'll get the appreciation or no. Now this happens a lot. It happens a lot in couples, it happens a lot in families. A mother cooks a meal for her child. The child comes and says, I don't like this. Suddenly the mother's irritated. I did all this for you. No, you didn't do it for him or her. You did it because you wanted to. You enjoyed doing it. You wanted to serve your child. But the child didn't appreciate it and now you're irritated. This happens with couples. This happens at work. This happens in sport. People play such beautiful tennis, but when you come to the final of Wimbledon, people are very cagey because they cannot get their mind away from the trophy. They're very scared that you're so close to it that you're only thinking about the result. You don't enjoy, you don't play. Krishna is all about playing with life, Leela. Now how can you live your life in such a beautiful way? Karma Yoga allows you to find freedom through your work. This is very, very important to understand. Your work is no more misery. It is a way to be free. It is a way to do things. This is very important for us in the 21st century, where work is such an integral part of our life. Can we do our work in a way that we express who we are, rather than treat it as just work for a salary or for name and fame? Can we just express who we are, irrespective of whether we get the desire, what we think is the result we deserve? This can really free us. So this is Karma Yoga. No running away from your responsibilities, relinquishing the fruit of your labor. People do this either by dedicating their work to a higher entity. Now you can combine Bhakti Yoga and Karma Yoga at times, like a Mother Teresa serving the lepers in Calcutta. A life of service, and she attains sainthood through her service. Of course, that's connected to Bhakti Yoga for her because she's dedicating her work to Christ. This is a beautiful example of the two coming together. It doesn't need to be. You can have no faith, but you can just serve and serve and serve, and that is Karma Yoga. What is Bhakti Yoga? Where you have faith. You have faith in the deity. Now, generally, we are people who think we are the center of the universe. Our ego is such. But when you serve through Karma Yoga, you put somebody's needs above your own. So you're not, you put something above you. Similarly, when you do Bhakti Yoga, you find that you put the deity above you. So as soon as you bow your head, you come into a space where there's a surrender that happens. It's very beautiful. People who have faith, it's a beautiful journey. They have a certain surrender to a higher entity, to God. And that it's a great coping mechanism through life. Things that are very stressful for many people in life, they're able to take it in their stride simply because they say, this is God's will. Now, suppose you don't have that quality in you, no problem. You can be a person who's inquiry based. Inquiry means that it's not about intellect. Yeah? You can be a double PhD but be a real idiot. You can be uneducated but be very intelligent. The point here is that what is your level of inquiry and curiosity about life? I want to know who am I? I want to know what happens to me. Where did I come from? This is like all of us ask the question, but for a lot of us, this is just conversation. And we don't really know, we don't really care much beyond it being a coffee table conversation. But for a person like Ramana Maharishi as an example, at the age of 13, he said, what is the point of living life if I don't know who am I? So he went to Veliangiri, the hills there, and he got into this inquiry, who am I, who am I? And through that process, he reached to enlightenment. It's a great example of a person like that. Now, it's important for us to understand that this is inquiry. Let's not confuse this with intellect. You can know all that there is to know about love, but may never have been in love yourself. You can research, ask people. That's not the journey here. Here, you're inquiring, and your inquiry transforms you. That's Karma Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, Jnana Yoga. Now, this is the big contribution of Krishna to put these things. Now, a lot of systems that we have, a lot of organized religions, if you don't have faith, you have no place there. But Krishna understands a human being at great depth. You may not be an emotional person. You can be an inquiry, intellect person, or you can be a service person. Like this, there are different ways. It's not that one is better than the other. Whatever suits you should be your predominant quality. You need all. Yeah? If I am only working with my intellect and inquiry, I also need to serve. I also need to have some amount of devotion and trust. But that is my predominant. Yeah? But you need to have all three, because you're trying to attain to the divine. Why do it with only the mind, only the heart, only the hands? Try all, work with all, but one will be your predominant nature. That's a little bit about Krishna's contribution to this. I've just looked at it from the yoga perspective. His contribution to Indian culture, dance, music, art is immense. We've never had a person who has such a varied role in society, in life, that even today he fascinates us. Just like Shiva, Krishna fascinates us with the ability to come alive. A lot of the spiritual traditions of India the spiritual masters of India have this quality of just being full of life. It's very unique because a lot of systems don't have this quality. So here's a little bit about Krishna. Let's take a little bit of time to meditate upon which do we feel is our predominant quality. Are we inquiry based? Are we emotion based? Are we service based? Yeah? We'll study Raja Yoga when we come to Patanjali, but out of these three, Jnana, Karma, Bhakti, which is our predominant quality? In this project, the 21st Century Yoga, it's very important for us to understand the masters and then to see how we can use that knowledge to transform our body, mind and energy daily. Let's spend a little bit of time just meditating. What is my predominant quality? Inquiry, devotion or service? When we meet the next time, we will study Buddha's contribution to yoga and Patanjali before getting to modern yoga. Namaste.